So our next speaker has had a profound impact on my life in recovery. So next I'm going to welcome my friend Bailey Nichols to come and share with us.
How's it going? I'm Bailey. I am nervous as hell. I'm beyond grateful to be alive today. I'm grateful to be here. A year ago, I couldn't be relied on for anything, so to be asked to come out here is pretty amazing. I am a person in recovery today, but I live my life in just self-destruction since from a young age. I started getting incarcerated when I was 13. I spent the majority of my teenage years in juvie. I did 3.5 years before I turned 18. I had no regard for my life or anybody else's life for that matter. And it showed in all areas of my life. I started overdosing at a young age. I started overdosing at 18. I got court ordered to the Wells house. And when I went into the Wells house, I was young, and my friends were all pretty much criminals. And then I formed a new group of friends that were in recovery. But I avoided the winners. That's all I ever did. If anyone was doing anything with their life, I didn't want to be around them. So I kind of stuck with people like myself that weren't working on anything. And when we all graduated, I started getting high with these people, and we all kind of just brought each other down, and that was the start to my real active addiction with heroin. And I overdosed around a dozen times in 2018, and I put my mom through hell that year. She's here today. She was my emergency contact, and she would get calls from all over the place. I remember one time, I didn't even know about this till later on. She told me that I guess I had overdosed at someone's house, and my friends had gotten into my phone and called my mom, and they were like, "Hey, Bailey OD'd, we called the cops, but we have warrants, so we're leaving. Good luck," pretty much. And hung up the phone, and they didn't even tell her where I was. So she had no clue what hospital I was at, where I was going, what area I was in. And I just remember never truly caring, because I didn't care about myself at all. Never cared about myself. I would hear people in meetings share about near-death experiences and just how much it shook them up, and how much for a lot of people was life-changing, and I envied that, because I'm like, how do you care so much? I didn't really, I don't know. But I had decided from a young age that I was either going to die young or spend my life in prison, and I was okay with that. And I am the epitome of you have to do it for yourself, because I went to almost every program in Maryland. I had every chance to be reformed, and it wasn't just drugs. Like I said, I was a wild kid before the drugs. It was everything in my life, right? And it took, for me to change, I had to put myself through enough pain, and I did. I overdosed for the last time. I think it was probably November of this past year, 2022. And I was staying at my mom's house at the time, but she put me out. But I was going back. I had unlocked the window so I could get back in to get some stuff, right? So she didn't even know I was home. And I used, and I overdosed. I wake up around probably 6 p.m. All the medevacs or whatever, the cops are in the house. My mom's crying, bawling her eyes out. And I was just like, fuck. Because I'd always tried to keep it away from her. Even though she was getting the calls, I tried not to, I don't know, but it was definitely different coming to when your mom's sitting there crying. and my PO was like, she's like, look, you have to go to treatment. And my go-to was a 2-week rehab in Baltimore. I could normally get high in there. So I called them up. I was like, all right, well, I'll go to treatment. Because that was like, if I ever wanted to please the judge or please my PO, that was my go-to. But they didn't pick up, and she said I had to get in immediately. So I heard of this one rehab. It was called Avenues, is where I went to. And I called, and they told me it was a 30-day treatment center. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I get there and found out there was actually 60 days. And yeah, I was pretty pissed off. And I was, like I said, I was not trying to get clean at all. I even went in there with drugs. So my clean day isn't the day that I went in. It was a few days afterwards. And when I ran out of drugs, and I was like, I packed my stuff. Actually, I didn't even unpack. Had all my stuff was still packed up in the room. So I was like, I'm leaving. And they told me, I guess, at this treatment center, only one person had access to all the phones. So, and that was in the day shift. I was trying to leave at like 10 o'clock at night. So I wouldn't get my phone till the following day, and this is in Cambridge, Maryland. I'm like, well, what do you expect me to do? Just staying outside? So I stayed the night, and the next morning, they started me on like a 7-day maintenance taper. And still, a part of me just wanted to leave, go get high, go to a different treatment center, but it was just like, my whole life I was just like going against the grain. With everything, and I was just so pained up. I was so sick of all just suffering my entire life. Like what Vlad was saying, I wanted to die pretty much every day. So I gave in, and I went full force with it, man. Like, I was the type, I would have to be taking notes in groups. Like, you know what I mean? That was never me, but that's what I was doing. I was reaching out, I was taking suggestions. I went to a whole new area. I moved to Westminster, and my life today it's incredible how different it is. And like, I can't even begin to explain. And honestly, like, the biggest thing in my life today is the relationships that I have. Because like I said before, I stuck with people like me. You know what I mean? Like, and now it's like I just started to try to surround myself with people that were doing something different, and I stopped chasing girls. That was another issue of mine. I would get clean, and I wasn't living clean. Like, it was always, what can I do to fill the void? And yeah, so I'm very nervous, guys.
You're doing great.
But yeah, no, like honestly, I'm so grateful to be here, and I was coming up. This time of year always reminds me of my ex-girlfriend passed away, my first girlfriend, and she would have turned 25 last Friday. Her picture's up there is Alyssa on the bottom, and I remember I was in juvie, and my mom came to visit me. It was on a day that wasn't visitation, so I knew something was wrong, and she came in crying. She told me that Alyssa had passed, and it fucked me up because, I'm sorry, I know there's kids. Excuse my language, but it did. And a lot of times it's like I feel guilty now that I'm clean and I have a clear head and I actually care about myself and others, care about recovery. I'm like, there's people that use one time and passed. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like I feel guilty for living today. But I know that that's not the case, and I didn't want to say yes when Sean asked me to come out here. This isn't something that I'm like, not into just going out in public speaking. But I knew, like, even if I went out there and made a fool of myself, there's still people in this community who knew me when I was a shit show. So it's like, like, recovery does work if you give yourself a chance. It did for me. Thanks for letting me share.